Welcome back to the PPL. I hope you enjoyed the replays of the
fun.
highlight moment.
Still kind of stand by my my previous statement that I haven't quite formed my opinions on Ascension Peak because every game I've casted there has been mad corny.
Yeah, I mean, we casted one where it was double backdoors.
Yeah, double backdoors for a 4-0.
Yeah.
Just wacky stuff happening on Ascension Peak. Wacky stuff happening today for NIP, but this next set up could be more of the same, but that's less of what we're expecting and more of just the namesake of Virtus.Pro. What else do they have cooking in Season 2? And they're in a bit of a rebuilding phase themselves, trying to find a new home for this major roster changes. 4 people new to this roster, 4 people new to the PPL in total. It's not like, picking up Cybate or picking up Bittner. These are 4 guys that haven't played at this level before.
Yeah, and they do have a lot of strength to them. One thing after that series last week where we saw it go all the way to Game 5 against Mouse Sports, and in the interview with NTBs from Mouse Sports, he talked about how from the beginning to now have already seen tremendous improvement from the Virtus.Pro roster, and everyone's proud of them in that aspect. But Navi on the opposite end, they've been strong right from the start. So let's go ahead and take a look at what they have to offer.
Kill from Creatives though, triple kill, quadra kill.
Potentially, and it will be triggered here. 4,000 damage ripping through for the triple kill push successful.
And he says, no, baby. Okay.
Single shot, and that cursed revolver looking for more as he's able to hit onto the back end of her. What a flick shot! Are you kidding me?
Kid takes out Elvenpath though, but Unbelievable is alive. Unbelievable with a double down red serpent coming out from Spunky, and that's gonna seal the deal.
I mean, Unbelievable isn't the only unbelievable player on this roster, especially looking at those highlights.
No, they go back a long time. This roster starting to be, after those roster changes after DreamHack, this is the longest standing European roster. I mean, Mutu and Spunky and Creatives and Phoenix, those guys together since the WASD Masters LAN when they played under that banner. Phoenix added later in that year, but this team, they have their one loss, of course, but this is a team that knows how to lose together. They know how to improve, and that's really what I think has gotten them to this next level. Creatives, the MVP at the World Championship, playing all different types of things, regarded as one of the most dangerous players in the world because of just that incredible flexibility he's got across the cast of champions.
And continues to prove why he was declared as such at the PWC. Hasn't seemed to let up at all, and neither has the rest of the roster. We heard right after that time that they didn't take any break and keep going through it. They had the loss against Fnatic last week, but that was another set that went the distance.
And that's a big thing to talk about. How do you respond to winning as a team? When you look at a team like Nautilus's here, they have only wanted to get better. They've only wanted to improve when they lose, and now even when they win, they want to just play more, get better. It's almost a defining moment when you win a championship. Your foot is on the gas when you're coming across the finish line. What do you do next? Do you take it off? Do you kind of just look around and bask in your victory and what you've accomplished so far, or do you keep that foot right where it is and continue on with your winning ways?
And, I mean, they've definitely taken the latter approach as far as going through this. And on the opposite end with Virtus.Pro, you mentioned they're in a bit of a rebuilding phase.
Yeah. When you qualify first, you got your foot on the gas, Gabby. What do? You replace 4 of your players for no reason. That's what you do. That's what Virtus.Pro did. And now they're still trying to bounce back and find that identity, find where they fit in Season 2 so far. And, I mean, we really got to expect them to be popping off right around now. This is when they started to catch fire in Season 1, was that week 3, week 4 mark.
And, I mean, and that's how new these players are, that you still have all the shadows.
Elvenpath and his band of masked bandits.
I mean, Elvenpath right there, standing at the front of it, leader of the team, building this from the ground up. And they've already been starting to make some changes in their approach. They tried out the Quadra front line for a bit, Quadra Shadow in this case, and all that, but
and let's talk about this team
week.
Dynamic, Gabrielle. You have a team like Ninjas in Pajamas, right? They've got 5 guys that just won everything, the World Championship, this LAN, that LAN. You've got a team like Virtus.Pro with one guy who's won LANs and, coming second at a World Championship. He's kind of the master of puppets of this team so far. You have to imagine the other guys, you have to expect they're just falling in line with what his ideas are versus a team like NIP who have a lot of guys that maybe have an idea or an ego or a way they want to approach the game. And then you've got those teams in the middle of the pack, which right now seem to be doing the best. You know, the Navis, the NIPs, the guys that have some quiet, some big voices, some little personalities, some big personalities, some that have won lands, some that haven't won lands, and about everything in between. So we get a nice little slice of every type of pie here in the PPL.
And we've seen Elvin Path go onto different picks of last week with the Leon and everything. And it is interesting when you speak about mentality-wise. You have these players that do have skill to them, but they are making their first appearance in the PPL. And I imagine, I don't know them personally, but I imagine there's some kind of aspect of, okay, well, you're the guy that's been here before, so we'll follow your lead and everything while they prove themselves as individuals, and then maybe they'll find themselves in a place where they can start being vocal and really put their step forward.
And, you know, as much as I paint Elvin Path as sort of this lead with an iron fist guy, at the same time, you know, he does give him or take input from others on his team. He told us that when he came and qualified for a seed. You know, he said Simsalo back in the day had a lot to do with the draft, and you know, they just have a discussion about it. He's not this mean guy by any stretch of the imagination. He gives credit where credit's due as well, but you know, don't beat around the bush with it. He is the most experienced player on this roster.
Yeah, for sure. So in this rebuilding phase, we'll have to see exactly how Virtus.Pro is going to do in this matchup. I mean, it's a tough one, and last week when we called it the battle of the bottom with them in Mouse Sports, but it still was a great set to watch, and these are PPL teams at the end of the day. But now you're going against some of the top, and I would really like to get to know these Virtus.Pro members a bit more, because Elvin's the one that we've gotten to speak with in the past, but it's really hard to say exactly how those comms and everything go, aside from what we can conclude from past interactions on Virtus.Pro.
Well, they've got to make it to land first. That's the first step in that journey. Not sincere. You know, with only one loss and the way that Ninjas of Pajamas in third place are performing now, no one's clinched officially yet, but that seems to be the way, at least in my mind, that's what I'm considering, right? Not Sincere and Fnatic at the top of the standings at the moment. Unless something goes horribly awry for them down the stretch of Season 2, they should be the teams I expect to see at LAN. Torvald will be first picked here, makes it through picks and bans on Jaguar Falls, and Virtus.Pro answer with an Inara.
Big time map for the Grandpa. You have no Ruckus and no Mako, and Cassian Bomb King taken away as well. Inara getting high prioritization in the first set too, but here, whether I usually used to say, oh, Elvin Path, he's great with Inara, and that's a comfort pick, but the way everyone's just been switching around the docket, then who even knows anymore? And
Inara's definitely making her way up in priority. Genos is still on the table. Torvald, the big question here for Nautisphere. They run this one time last week, and they ran it with Mutu's Lex, actually. I don't know if we'll get to that point today, because I think there are other good picks for Mutu still available here. But they do pick up their Fernando. Nautisphere do scoop the Genos before letting that combo potentially go back to the Bears in black and orange. And that's going to be a double frontline composition for Navi as well. Going back to roots just a tad. On the side of VP, they want to secure a bit of that damage. I guess since Genos is taken away, you're not really in a rush to go and pick up that combination in particular, so you might as well not give too much away about your composition at this point in the mid-draft. And VP with their last pick here. Still need a healer. Typically, this is where we'll see them pick that up so they can save that last spot in their draft to counter whatever Nautisphere. Counter as best as possible what they are going to round out with here. Still no DPS picked up for Navi. There's Talus, there's Buck, there's still the Genos, or excuse me, the Lex if they want to run that with their Genos. But Mutu tends to run the Buck for this team, and we will get to see. I believe this is the first time we've seen Eevee for Nautisphere. I would have to flip back through all my pages of notes here to double check that. But you know, Creative's Eevee is one that definitely carries a reputation, and I'm very excited to see this one. Yeah, so that's the composition for Navi, and on the opposite end, Terminus gets locked in. That's also a pick that Elvin Path in particular has brought through. So I am stoked to see exactly who's on what on the side of VP, but there's only one way to find out how everything's going to shake down in this set. So let's go ahead and send it to the casters.
Well, thanks, Gabby. Me, Rain Day here, and Gore Miser, William Newberry V. Welcome, Gore. How's it feel to be back here on the casting stand? It's not a desk. We're just kind of standing, so the casting stand.
It comes through. I mean, you get to stretch your legs, make sure the blood's flowing.
Feels good,
no clots forming.
Exactly.
Keep your joints popped.
Yeah, exactly.
Feeling fresh.
I like it. Feeling good. Maybe a little yoga, a little downward dog in case you start getting a little tight up in here. Well, let's see. Who do you think is going to take it? Nautisphere. Give a thumbs up for them. And Heart, if you think Virtus.Pro will win this one. Gore, who do you got your money on?
I have to give it to Navi. It's just one of those things with the way VP have been playing. This is the time that they started to look a little bit better through Season 1.
Yeah.
But this doesn't look like they've been on that vertical rise just yet. They've been kind of sloping up, definitely had a good practice against Mouse, but this is Navi. This is one of the top teams.
Yeah.
The world champs, as they are reigning. Slightly under Fnatic right now, but still at the top number 2, and it's just a dominant force.
It definitely is. I think one of the big keys around this is the draft. And to me, what stands out is the notable lack of pip, which we saw in the previous set. Fnatic, NIP, maybe not the equals now in terms of play as far as, the teammates they've got. There's a little bit more experience and synergy on Fnatic, as is undeniable. They're the first place seed here, but they do know each other well. They know their drafts well. And NIP had something there, knowing how strong the Inara, the pip were. Notably, the pip just gone, and not as Sincere not needing to take it, but I think they have to be aware of how impactful that is going to be heading into their rematch with, obviously, Fnatic in the upcoming week.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to see how Phoenix is going to pilot the Torvald. Doesn't make it through often, and I feel like he's the one that would have been switched out for the pip if that was going to be something to take out of the composition. So you're losing something that is really good against Inara Terminus, but gaining something that really helps Mutu, Spunky, and Creatives in all of this.
Virtus.Pro goes straight to the point, and this is already Creative spotting out where they are. Elven Path isolated by himself. He loves to do this. The rest of Virtus.Pro kind of holding back, creating this 1v5, and then all of a sudden maybe a 2v1. This is what they planned, and it works out. Unlimited Power finds Creatives to start out.
Now coming around the side, Unlimited Power, actually setting this up really, really well. Goes back a shield on this Monkey, but he's just poking him away, making sure they know his presence is around and being able to keep Virtus.Pro having control on this point.
75% counting here for Virtus.Pro. I'm surprised this has gone so well. Usually you see just this collapse, and you know what? The fight's not quite over, 99%, but here is Creatives stalling things out. Elven Pass swinging there on the Terminus, and things are looking good for them. Both Stigala, no pip needed. They've got enough staying power, it seems.
Good swings. All they need is just a couple more kills and a little bit of room. Unbelievable, dancing as much as he can onto the point, but it's not going to be enough for him. Phoenix comes in, the shielding not good. They're just erasing these frontliners like it's nothing.
They really are. This is a Virtus.Pro point if I've ever seen one. Madara finding a kill on a Mutu. Elven Path continuing to swing with that Massacre Axe. Spunky firing away. MTZ is getting low, though, but he's going to clean it up. Madara, Shaolin, the Desert Wind, grabbing a triple and giving Virtus.Pro the lead against Navi.
All right, I'm going to sit down for this one.
Take
as
a
things
seat, buddy.
go forward, this is going to be a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to coming into this. And one of the things that has always been mentioned, you had touched on it, the Desk touched on it, VP haven't been able to show a lot of personality. They haven't had a lot of synergy, except that's with Elven Path. The other 4 members together have spent quite a long time together playing through the CIS region, so a lot of work kind of developing their comms, how they are. I don't know how it all evolved with Elven Path, but with the way things are going, I think they are finally showcasing that they could make it to that PPL level. It's not easy to take a point off Navi.
And I mean, if you look at a film and you see a new commander, a commander who's been in charge of things, loses his whole troop, gets a whole new troop of soldiers ready and under his wing, he's going to have maybe some issues getting those guys to believe in him, maybe to work under him perfectly. And you see the seismic crash here, MTZ maybe taking control in ways that Elven Path can't, knowing these other 3 members from his usual play in the PGS, and having them have a little more synergy with each other. Elven Path maybe just, instead of trying to command so much, being a part of that crew, ingratiating himself.
Virtus.Pro are impressing me in one sense, and that is that they are making it kind of hard, like it's a loss for words almost, at the way they're playing this. Is the fact that they are up against Navi, who has looked unstoppable until Fnatic.
That's
it came
true.
to the point where the immovable object met themselves, I guess, coming down, Fnatic and Navi, and now Virtus.Pro, they're not supposed to be at this level. It's just ridiculous to see how well they're doing it. Now Mutu, unbelievable, stepping it up a little bit, but the way they're playing it, they're very solid, very aggressive. I like the personality that's showing through. As long as Virtus.Pro can kind of keep that up, even if they don't get the push, they have showed Navi that they can't take them lightly.
You cannot take this team lightly, and that's what's crazy about it. Virtus.Pro against, I mean, nearly anyone in Paladins, any region, they're going to give you a good run for your money. It's just showing how good Fnatic and Navi have been to just dismantle them. Even NIP, how good they are, despite not being in the league of Fnatic and Navi right now. So for Virtus.Pro to switch the kind of the conversation, flip the table up, so to speak, and put the cards and the dice all onto the ground, It's a very surprising thing, and so far, really working out for them until those last 2 kills.
5 seconds left, and that is
Make that 4
exactly
kills.
what Navi needed to be able to give them some space. Unbelievable. The only one to fall, whereas they got rid of every member systematically of Virtus.Pro to make sure that they weren't going to be available to try and hold that overtime any longer. 1-1, not the way I thought the set was going to start, but it's starting to, I want to say, get a little bit more normal. You can see Mutu, Spunky, Creatives kind of stepping back up into it. And I have to say, Madara stepped up pretty much where he needed to with this triple kill.
And this is a big shot right there because you know what? He ice blocks, he has the sword available, thinks maybe I'm making it out there, but Madara, no, he is ruthless with the bow. Inspecting that right now. Shaolin's fingernails actually relatively clipped there, so show he's a man of damage and of grooming.
I have to say, that probably has to do, I think, pulling the bow back. You let go, you don't want it to like grab your nails.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Might hurt, might not feel as comfortable, so definitely keeping himself ahead of the game there. Fighting crime on the side just to make sure everything stays safe.
Hard to be a bowmaster and, you know, bite your nails as well. I don't know if those two go well together. They could be inseparable, though. I don't know anything about bows. But you know what Madara certainly does. Another one, and he finds Spunky, the healer, on the side of Not Vincere.
Getting rid of the Genos, making sure that that augmentation's not going to go there. Heat Haze pops. Just going to use that mainly to retreat, get on out of there, try to stay safe, alive. But you can see Virtus.Pro are taking this fight really well.
Wow.
They're actually approaching it perfectly. The problem is that Not Vincere have set up and grabbed that point.
And this is where we start to see the impact of Torvald, and that's one of the most important things. Phoenix could set up for a Hyper Beam here in the corner. He's got the ability to displace, the bubbles still come up, and watch, he's playing as a secondary front line. Doesn't need to stand on the point to have that big impact that Torvald's having, though he loses Creative's Elven Path. He seems like he knows things are not going their way. Working his way around the right side, Mutu as well on the left, just trying to maybe set up for a pincer as Virtus.Pro reclaimed the objective with 66%.
Being able to kind of take over what Navi have been able to do. Elven Path has the reanimate. So any fight Navi decide to take right
there
here
it is.
Could be a big thing. Hyper Beam comes through, doesn't push anyone off, and actually 2 kills go the way of Virtus.Pro.
Oh my, Phoenix can't quite get it. Elven Path, a little wiser than that. He's not going to fall for it again. Through time and space, it does not connect. No Jarrett Quadra kills here for Spunky. Elven Path still swinging away. This guy's so tanky right now, and you got to give just a huge, huge hand to the healer.
Elven Path's ult right there is one of the biggest assets to have.
I love that he
Terminus
has it.
is standing around, and it's just like, all right, you can kill me, and then you have to get off the point. Like, what are you going to do? We're at 99%. You cannot contest this. You either fight me or you die to my ult. Either way, it's a lose-lose scenario, forcing Navi essentially to make the hardest decision. If they get the reanimate right there, they might be able to burst it down, but starting at the push, you get it charged back relatively quickly, so just let him have it. And hold on to it, do whatever.
This really translates us back to a meta of really the PPL Fall Land. When Terminus and Inara, Terminus had just come out, Phoenix was one of the first ones to use him, Elven Path one of the first ones to use him, to a high level of play. And one of the things is that Inara was also very powerful then. And it was, you can't let two be on the same team. We never really saw a game where both got on the same team. Navi would do this all the time, and then they would lose. Virtus.Pro now, they have a pretty dangerous lineup. Maldamba got a couple nerfs, not the hottest talk of the town with Genos and Pip making a rise, but still a dang good healer. And I think this is just a tried and true kind of lineup with a good Zen, a good Shaolin, and that's why that's working for Virtus.Pro.
And something I had mentioned on the desk earlier, for mainly looking back towards Not Vincere. Torvald, this is probably one of the better maps you can have him on, just because his ult's going to be effective, but this map is good for flanks. You want to have someone who can shield him, make him a little bit safer. The problem is I actually really wish we had a Pip here instead, because you don't really have a way to lower that time to kill on the Inara, on the Terminus. They're going to live forever, and as long as Maldamba's not dead, you can almost bet they're not going down.
I mean, Creatives is having a rough time from what I'm seeing. I don't know if we could take a look at the KDAs today, but it doesn't feel like he's been getting a lot done. Every time we look at him, he's in the ice block, and he's 2-6. I mean, Mutu is 9-4. Creatives is 2-6 on this EV. Unlimited Power 6-3. Madara 8-7. All the carries in this game are positive, except Creatives, who is basically 3 times negative, which is, I think, the biggest key here. This EV could be the game changer, but he is yet to really get going in this round.
And I feel like that's kind of a relic. Again, the map having a little bit more feel to some flanks. I don't normally think of Eevee when I think of Jaguar Falls, although She definitely has her place everywhere. Once you escalate up there, and I think that was something that was, again, highlighted kind of by Nick, we haven't really got to see Navi run Eevee as much as we've seen a lot of the other EU teams, a lot of other players. And I think we're kind of seeing why Creatives is decent at it, but it's just not having the effect you really want.
And I think, you know, Elvin Path very aware, throwing the crush down as much as possible, trying to get the stuns, trying to get the slows, making it hard for Creatives, who finds another 2 kills, finds the 3rd kill. Wow, triple for Creatives. As we mentioned it, he starts going off, and maybe that's what they need. That's what they're going to get. It'll change it. I think he just tied himself up in terms of an even KDA there, finishing the last 4 kills of that round. And Not a Sincere tied up yet again.
For anyone wondering, that's exactly pretty much how you have to make it work. You have to give them something to go against, to prove wrong, and then they step up, because that is exactly how it rolled out. Creatives played that one perfectly. Again, starting to feel more comfortable and putting our own words back into our mouth.
Definitely putting him somewhere. You can see the blink range and the blink health flicker and teleport being taken here. Biting cold. Maybe he just loves biting cold. That's why he goes in the ice block so much. He's just like, let me get this one ammo. I don't know.
That one shot can make a difference.
That was just a joke. He clearly isn't doing it. Not doing it for that reason, but he is being a little bit more defensive. I think he is scared of the pressure. Clearly, Madara has shown, even mid-air, even with Swift Witch 3, he is really able to find and pick him apart. The Billow already forced him in, which is amazing for Mutu. He's just going to jump up and then kind of back away. Knows Elvin Path has the stun available. And there's a Zen right there. Takes down Creatives. Not the easiest target, actually. And the Billow, the reset from that will actually allow him to just fan those flames again on out of there.
You can actually see Mutu, his loadout here. Big reason why some of the players are having a lot of trouble being able to maybe lock in Xin and Shaolin using that net shot. Actually, a lot of damage as he steps up to the plate. Virtus.Pro 96% just now being stalled.
I mean, gotta say, what an adjustment already, though, from Virtus.Pro. I mean, playing this map in a way where you would think that they are actually in charge, and they have been in charge by far. MTC, Madmac, Madara, unlimited power, feeling so good. Elvin Path as well. Finding Creatives yet again who dies in these point fights. Unbelievable, though. Getting Elvin Path thanks to that through time and space from Spunky and the damage some of that put into him. 96% for Virtus.Pro. Navi still 57 on the point.
This is going to be the biggest fight, I want to say, for Navi to be able to come through. Either team, if they can get a push after this, do win this first game. And Virtus.Pro being in a position to potentially take something off of the reigning world champs is impressive.
Man.
And with shots like that, Madara opening it up, they're on the point in control.
I mean, he is absolutely reading Creatives like a book right now. Madara showing why he got picked up by Elvin Path. And Virtus.Pro take the objective again. This is wild. And you got to say, maybe this is why people don't take Torvald so much. It's not working. It is not working.
Yeah, the shield applies a little bit of health you get through. They're hitting too hard for it to really matter. The shield goes up and then immediately gets popped.
That's true.
It's one extra shot that they're having to expose. Maybe 2 sometimes. And it doesn't seem like Virtus.Pro care. That extra shot, that extra 2 shots, it's just a little bit more time. But in this kind of control, 3-2 right now, they can afford it.
Yeah. I mean, showing again the power of these champions. Virtus.Pro have 5 very strong champions in this meta and are playing well. Madara is hitting his shots great. Look at this. Every time we look at Creatives, he's in an ice block defensively. I mean, this is just like the pressure. If he is just out in this fight, Madara's got an eye on him. Zen has got an eye on him, ulting him as well. Look at Madara, 238 health to his name, and Madmac right where you wanted him to be. Gets the health, unbelievable, still finishing him off. But incredible, incredible stuff here from Virtus.Pro.
I have to give it to Madara. He had really good movement right there. Up until the end, of course, there was not much way to get away from Not a Sincere. You're pretty much right on their doorstep at that point. This is where Virtus.Pro really need to, I want to say, shake things up. They haven't been able to find a push just yet, and this has pretty much been the reason. They get really aggressive, they get into the base, they break through a good choke point, and then Not a Sincere just wipe them away, push them back, get aggressive on the defensive line, and now no one can get in.
Well, this will be interesting, wouldn't it? The world champions against the #1 qualified seed for that tournament. That seed totally changes their roster, brings in 4 new members, lose every game, even to the lowest seed, the team that's not won a game, Mousesports, in the PPL since beating them just last week. Navi losing just by inches, and an amazing quadra kill from the support to the best team, Fnatic. And now, on their heels, against Virtus.Pro. About to lose if things continue to go their way. Unlimited Power can make a big play here, and he looks to find Phoenix. Madara cleans him up and takes him to, oh boy, maybe a back-to-base spectator situation, but it looks like Unlimited Power is going to be the one who just backs off for now, but still makes it out alive.
63 health, passive healing, puts him right back up to full, sitting around half health right now. Unbelievable, getting aggressive. 5 seconds left on the clock. Someone has to be on the payload for overtime for them, but they're starting to turn it around. They're starting to get the damage, and they've got the kills.
But can he stay on MTZ? He somehow has enough crowd control reduction to stay on the ledge. Madara finds the kill. Mutu, he's the last one standing alongside Creatus with the ice block. That biting cold is starting to bite him on the back. It doesn't seem like it's been working. Oh my goodness, are Virtus.Pro about to beat Navi?
Unbelievable, standing in their way right now. The damage is solid. Phoenix is back. The team's respawning. They're fighting so much, and they have to wait for the Mad Mac to get back. Otherwise, they don't have the healing. They have Reanimate, though. What a stun coming through. Elvenpath fighting for his life.
Mama with 1 gets 2. Reanimate. I'm saving my ultimate, baby. You know why? Because I get W's when I do. Virtus.Pro take the game over Navi and send the entirety of the EUPPL scene into a question frenzy. What just happened?
Last week, we get Mouse getting their first win ever. This week, a team that is 0-5. They have not shown any signs of life. Just took a game off the world champs. Europe's nutty.
Let's send that one back to the desk.
Yo, you said it yourself. This is about the time that VP starts just popping off.
It's about that time. This is exactly what they did in Season 1. Granted, no quad front lines in Season 1. None of that super hyper funny business. That actually didn't come after they started to pop off. But VP starting to find their own identity. These are great players. We kind of said this in the first couple of weeks that it is a matter of time before they really start to come together, start to mesh, and start to really look like a unit.
And I mean, from the start of this game where we thought, okay, going into it with our expectations, and then Virtus.Pro take the first point, you think, wow, they were really able to burn through those frontliners and kind of set the tone a bit.
I know, and part of that was Navi with a little bit of a different style of draft. Torvald coming into this week had something like a 96% ban rate. He's now worked into the draft, and I always have that question about when something's banned week after week after week, how much does it still fit into your strategy when you haven't played with it in X amount of months, right? I had that question for Theos Makoa, right? I was like, bro, you haven't played this in 9 months. Does it still, is it still a part of you, or is it still something you identify with?
Still in your soul.
And you got to wonder, not to say that was the problem. I think that was more of just VP playing well overall in game number 1. And you've got guys like Madara on Shaolin. The fact that with this type of character can step up and just be such a playmaker, there's really nothing to it, nothing fancy around it. He just came, he was hitting all of his shots and just looking absolutely immaculate on a character, and stepping it up to basically its fullest potential. Second on the net worth chart. You don't get there top of the net worth chart down the stretch of the game. You don't get there unless you have an absolutely light show performance. The way that supports are earning credits nowadays, you do not put yourself in that position unless you are dominating.
And he was rocking above the rest, passing his buddy Mad Mac, who was on the Maldamba. And I mean, everyone was just kind of coming together in a really effective way. Elvenpath was on the Terminus, who he's always been very comfortable with that. One of the first to really adopt that as someone to add to his regular rotation.
Finally got a kill with his Reanimate down the stretch. He was swinging 2-for-1s. Looked really, really good. I'm excited for Virtus.Pro. I'm excited for the rest of this set. We thought we might have another sweep week on our hands, but VP, we might still. I mean, VP could sweep the world champs. You never really know. But we're going to be headed to map 2, guys. Stone Keep is going to be map number 2 up on the docket for today.
The Stone number. But yeah, going into Stone Keep, that's where we are next in Virtus.Pro. They've got the momentum going for them now. Yeah. But Navi, I mean, they're a force to be reckoned with for sure.
Absolutely. I'm curious to see the draft here if they get things back to the way they were, the way I think most people expected them to be. You can't ever see a win like this coming for Virtus.Pro, but I mean, what a win it is for them to get. It's only one map. This is a best of 5. They'll need to find 2 more if they want to chalk a W up in their column today. Bomb King will be the first ban here on Stone Keep. I'm curious to see the Kinessa pick. I think that's been pretty big for both sides. Mutu, last week, he's always been great, but last week he was just bloodthirsty on this Kinessa. He was getting in people's faces. He was leading the charge sometimes for Not a Sincere. And I know VP, that's been a big pick for them as well. Unlimited Power can play this Kinessa. I think Madara can play this Kinessa. I'm really looking out for this one here on Stone Keep, especially with Zen Band.
Yeah, partway through the bands right now, and I'm trying to remember back to against Mouse Sports. I feel like Virtus.Pro brought them to Stone Keep and had a good performance on it. I mean, there's so much that happened in those matches that it's hard to specifically recall, but there's a lot that can happen here as far as compositions go and everything. And Virtus.Pro, they've got first pick this time around, and they're going to pick up the Cassie.
Well, this has been something that they did get a lot, I will say, in some of their sets earlier in the weeks. Elven Path, we've seen him play this. We've also seen Madara be playing this and Unlimited Power. Last week, it felt a lot like, because we did see a lot of flexibility last week from VP, we were starting to almost get the idea that is Unlimited Power just the lead fragger for this team, where he's going to be playing whatever he wants, and the rest of the team is sort of just picking up and filling in the scraps behind that. So we'll have to see. I want to keep an eye on who's playing Cassie this game for VP.
Yeah, so Nando getting locked in as well. Yeah, last time I remember Unlimited Power on the Bomb King on Serpent Beach, and that's kind of when he was duking it out and was doing well overall. Had some moments where he was choosing some poor positioning, going to the same spot over and over again against the Shaolin on that map. And I think those are the kind of things that you learn your lesson once, though, and then the next time you come around into the next week, you're not going to be doing stuff like that as often.
Definitely here. So still some EV prioritizations. Both of these teams, I will say, can play it. Will I say like it? Not as sincere. I don't know if I would say they like it at this point, because this is week 4, and I believe, if my memory serving me correctly, the first time we've seen them play Eevee so far in the split. VP, however, this is something that I expected them to play a decent amount of and lean a decent amount on of going into this season. And they've got a big pick coming up here. Will it be a double frontliner? Will they go to a 3 DPS style of composition? Will tell us a lot about the way they want to approach this. It'll be Terminus, VP, 2 frontlines with 2 very solid DPS to back it up.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to go double frontline, at least you have these picks on which you have players on your team that can really succeed with that damage.
And I mean, Elven Path, that's what he's played all throughout Season 1. And prior to that, before the PPL even existed, he's played a lot of that frontline. Pip will round things out for Natus Vincere. Hopefully a good way to deal with these 2 frontliners. However, those CC immunity cards floating around for these frontliners, maybe making it a little bit less so. VP, I mean, can they keep it going? That's really the only question we can have for them right now.
Yeah, you got the momentum behind you, VP. We'll see if you can actually carry it through to game number 2.
Interesting. Navi here having the single front line, again, mimicking the Fnatic style, and then taking that pip, which is something that we've seen very, very many opportunities for Unbelievable, for creatives to play as well. Really Unlimited Power, though, on that Eevee. If he can make a big impact that Creatives was unable to do last map, that'll be a big game changer.
This is really weird because you're seeing Virtus.Pro pretty much play to their strengths. The double frontline, I think, fits their players more than it really fits the meta. They're playing exactly the way they need to.
Yeah.
Navi are taking what they had in the last game and making it more like what Fnatic would have right now, more like what they would have had last week. It was kind of weird to see them running the double frontline, and now going back to the pip, not having a Torvald. I think this is a good choice. Overall, it's going to help alleviate, I think, some of the pressure on the point.
I agree with that. I think it'll be interesting here. Limited Power starting with the Cauterize. Unbelievable will be on that Inara. Creatives on the pip this time around. Stone Keep game 2. Virtus.Pro actually leading against the world champs here, Natus Vincere. The team that is without a win in the PPL. 4 new members. And Elven Path.
The battle has begun.
Starting out, though, with the Rejuvenate. And looking to take the low ground is Natus Vincere. Already Unlimited Power, kind of threatening, hasn't found any opening blows yet.
What I like is you can see the difference of approach in the fight. Immediately going to get some poke down is going to be Unlimited Power. But overall, point in control. Virtus.Pro 3%, not a lot. As Natus Vincere kind of take it back over, but they're very patient as to how this is going. No kills just yet, but a lot of damage being spread out through all the members.
Madara finding a couple of shots as well. And Limited Power just playing, like you said, patiently, looking for something here, any opening. First Blood, though, goes to Creatives on the pip, taking down the Eevee.
Mid-air shot, finding it. Creatives going to be able to help set them ahead, and I think that might be the role they needed. Madara, Elven Path immediately following afterward, just slow roll, but once they get it going, they get it to where they need to. Phoenix being able to kind of step up again off of a front line onto this Shaolin. Last week, I think he was doing pretty well. This week, he has a chance to show it again.
87% now, not as Vincier. Was that just a fluke? Was that something that they weren't prepared for? The draft was just odd. Where creatives on that Eevee really just that not great? I don't know, but Navi started off the way we would have expected last game with a 1-0 lead pretty easily.
Being able to just zone him out, keep him down. Not much. I kind of was hoping a little bit more. This Eevee, one of the things that was said on the desk, and I think one of the things that does apply equally here, is that CIS has loved Eevee for a while. Whether she was in meta or not, they loved it. And being able to kind of take the team that would run it the most, bring it into Virtus.Pro, I'm expecting it to do a little bit more than what I've seen so far.
It's just kind of a meta that, you know, in many ways doesn't work for Virtus.Pro because they did. Their players, MTZ loves to be that front line as well. I mean, Unlimited Power really that front line, but MTZ found himself safely playing the Ruckus, things of the nature where you can kind of flex and still be a little bit more damage-oriented with that tanky front line approach. And now, you know, without two front lines really being standard, they've decided to just say, let's just play it anyways. Let's do what makes our guys feel good. MTZ finding a kill with the Fernando, playing aggressive onto Phoenix, who falls. He's wanted to get better at his DPS, but so far you can't really have a complaint. They are now up 1-0.
1 minute, 20 seconds left, and Navi are looking comfortable, I think is the way to say it. They don't really seem like they're sweating right now. They're just kind of like, all right, we lost one, whatever, shrug it off. This is a new game, new map. Let's just take it as though we were taking on VP last week. Let's just go into this as though we don't expect much of them. Be a little bit more cautious. Don't overextend. But so far, they are playing it exactly the way they need to, slowly but surely pushing that payload in.
In my opinion, this is kind of like in Paladins, where you have round two, round one, round two, they all go the same way. You get both points. And then round three, you start thinking, I mean, are they going to let us do it again? Should we change it up this time? Should we just keep doing what's working? I think that was where I felt with the Phoenix kind of going on to the Torvald pick last game, Gore. He was playing DPS, it was working. He had some self-criticisms. He spoke with us, said, I need to get better to be matching with these guys in EU. Fnatic's amazing. But I didn't feel like it was really that bad.
No, I completely agree. I mean, even here, you can kind of see, I mean, only a 2-streak, nothing huge, no big crazy plays, but it's the same thing that you kind of get out of a Cassie, where Shaolin's just going to be consistent, reliable damage. That's all you really need out of him. Someone else can be the one making the flashy plays. You just have to get things moving.
Oh, nice heal there. 835 keeps him right out of death range. Elvenpath, Unlimited Power, find a couple. Elvenpath actually finds two. Beautiful stun there from Mad Mac to finish off Mutu, and that is going to be a defense successful. Virtus.Pro, despite the lineups, despite not losing, I mean, this is a different team. We can't say Navi anymore so much. It's Virtus.Pro who are really starting to come into their own.
And what I really like to see, and that was a good showcase of the defense there, and I think it'll be if they can get control of the point. They're running the double front line in a similar manner to what we saw triple front lines do. It's just, we're going to control the point. We're going to hold on to it. You can't take Elvenpath away from it. We'll keep him healed up. Empty Z, depending on how things go, gets a little bit more aggressive. And then again, Unlimited Power, Madara on the champions that are just going to provide consistent damage. Maybe some flashy plays in the meantime, but their goal is just hold on to the point as best they can.
Hits the right collarbone there. Left collarbone of Cassie. Stuns her into the wall. Dr. Phoenix making an precise incision and helping his team to get that point. Can he get point two, though? As you mentioned, Virtus.Pro capitalizing on the objective. That's so much damage, and wow, Phoenix just deletes him right there. That chicken gets fried. Unlimited Power up on top, and there's another stun there. Phoenix, unbelievable combining. And this is, despite Virtus.Pro having 51%, all Navi in the fight.
That first fight was a little bit slower. It looked a little bit closer. I want to say just because Navi didn't take the fight where Virtus.Pro were. They went around the other side. They were trying to go into the back line. That time they just met them head on and showed them exactly what you can do when they, I mean, it's like a train, but they also put a couple of spikes on the front to make sure that you felt that impact. It is not going to be easy to take them down again. Getting a defense is one thing, but you need to figure out how to get back on this point.
Maybe Virtus.Pro with that Cassiol can get something better than what they were looking for. Unlimited Power finds Spunky. Spunky, though, returning the kill on Elvenpath, but now he's got the reanimate, and that's when you don't want it because you do need to fight on that objective. Spunky able to, you know, really contribute so much to this fight, but now that he's down, Phoenix has to carry a lot of the weight here on the frag, and he is definitely doing it. He got two, but Mad Mac finds one, and unbelievable, just goes to the point, says, you guys fight up there all you want. I'm going to stand on the objective.
And now coming around the side, Mutu doing exactly what they need. Get rid of the healer, and it makes it easier to kill the tanks. Elvenpath left all by his lonesome. not going to be long for this world, and staggered out pretty phenomenally 10 seconds before he's even back, and that's going to be a lot of ground Navi can make on this payload push.
2 minutes and 2 seconds now here for Nadas Vincere to continue to push. They've got 600 credits to their name, net worth. Definitely a big talking point here, getting your Rejuvenates online. That's a tier 2 Rejuvenate. Just out of objective captures, they are ahead of Virtus.Pro. But Virtus.Pro definitely having moments. You got to say that that was a close one in terms of the point fight. Much better handled than the first one.
Being able to keep control, I think, a little bit better overall, but Nadas Vincere, I mean, it's just systematic at this point. The way they've gone back to it, this is exactly the way I expected them to play in the first game, where it's just coming through. Everything is, this is where it needs to be at this time, where it's going. They have the schedule. They're all arriving on time. Everything is perfect for them. They actually force an Immortal out of MTZ just to try and stop it. There's still 1 minute and 10 seconds left, and he goes down anyway.
Yeah, this might be a fast one. It's a really, really good Ice Storm. It locks him down, but Creatives returns the shot. You just can't say anything about that. Just good aim, good understanding of Pip's weapon. I think this one's going to go through. I don't think Virtus.Pro will spend too much on that. They're very aware of the combat mechanic. Those types of little things that can make a big difference. Virtus.Pro, if they do have a similar round and they fight 50% of the objective to start out, even if they lose, that will be more of a 75-80% on the objective. And that secondary fight, that zone's going to be so important because they will have a chance to just win a little skirmish and then capture.
I think the most important for Nadas Vincere coming into this is keeping an eye on Elven Path.
Yeah.
Watching where his ult is, whether it's there or not. Whether they're aware of it right now, 66%. It's going to charge up 2 fights. He should be able to get that by the time Nadas Vincere are looking to capture that point. So if he has it at the tail end, could be the impact they need. But Madara
0-6
is 0-6.
That's
this is
bad.
I mean, that's worse than what we were saying Creatives was doing. You need that person to be able to step up for it to have an impact.
And I mean, he was so good on the Shaolin, right? That's what the difference is. This is actually really scary here in my eyes because Madara's 0-6 and Virtus.Pro have kind of hung in there here and there. So if Madara turns it up, this could still be Virtus.Pro having something. Maybe not everything, though. Mutu, Phoenix, they find a couple of kills. Looking good on the Shaolin. Looks to withdraw. Knows he'll kind of cut the angle off there for Madara, and he goes down yet again. So they make that 0-7 as Nadas Vincere can continue to zone.
I'll say so far this game has been pretty much the perfect homage to what Nadas Vincere are good at and what a lot of the top teams have from the bottom teams. When it comes down to it, a draft that doesn't work, you adapt. You figure out what was wrong there, how do we change it? That's what they've done coming into this game. We lose a point. How do we make sure things go our way? Okay, we don't let them have that control. We don't let them have a Nara Terminus. They break it apart. Unlimited power comes in. Cool, you're one of the better EVs that's in EU. We're just going to take you down.
We don't mind at all. We've got plenty of answers for that question. Mutu jumps down, jumps right back up. 18 streak for him. They have no answer for the Buck. They have no answer for Nadas Vincere. Apparently, Madara looking to go low. That's 0-8 for the game. Phoenix with a double, looking to make it a triple. Come on, man. You can play the damage. You can play the damage.
Clean. 93%, 96%. Still being held onto behind him. You can see Phoenix. He's not worried about what's happening behind him. Unlimited power is there, going to be able to blink in, keep a little bit of overtime going. Well, for a little bit at least.
Yeah, unlimited power, not the longest lifespan. Nadas Vincere grab that victory, and they even up the set. You got to say, this has put all of us in a really interesting spot looking at this set because is it just Virtus.Pro, a new team? Maybe there's a little bit of a component to that. Is it Nadas Vincere, who just had a bad draft in Game 1 and now starting to look back their old ways? That was pretty dominant.
I think it comes down to the fact, and it's one of the words that I like to use for these teams, especially the top teams, they're adaptable. They can change it on the fly or through games if they need to. You lose one, you won't typically drop the next one because you learn from it. That's what we kind of saw with Fnatic versus Navi last week, and I feel like that's kind of how these two games went is, okay, we just lost, I don't know how, let's not do it again.
Exactly. Well, let's send it over to the desk to break down game number 2 here, Navi versus Virtus.Pro.
Well, Virtus.Pro was still putting up a fight, but nonetheless, Navi came through in the clutch.
Yeah, a bit of return to form for the champs here. Neither team necessarily getting hard out drafted in either sense of the word, but a couple of weird things, especially that 0-6 Cassie, especially when you're looking at Impulse Cassie and what that does. It's all about burst damage. It's all about the finishing power, and so weird that she's able to sit second on the charts but not finish a single kill.
Yeah, that going into that last round, that's exactly what happened. 0, 6, and 2 at first, second on the charts, and you think there's a lot of just in continuity that's happening.
Kind of weird, but at the same time, there's got to be some just unfortunate, some kills slipping away here and there.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a part of, Mutu running bulk up Buck that time. Instead of Ensnare Buck, he was the first one to come out with Ensnare Buck. He ran it in game number 1 on Jaguar Falls, but switching this time maybe to be a little bit more survivable against that burst damage from Cassie, helping keep the pressure on her and shut her down overall.
And then you had Creatives that was doing well in the pit, but I also want to note that Phoenix, going into last week where he tweeted about, I want to bring my DPS play up to the standard level that is expected for it to be considered good and everything. And he's been showing out week after week, but still on this Shaolin even more so.
Shaolin has been a big pick for both of these teams. And for Navi Sincere specifically, this was a great Creatives pick. And before the season, he would be playing this almost 95% of the time. Mutu can play it as well, but this is kind of Creatives through and through. To come in and have that type of performance, to come in and just look that dominant is really saying something for Phoenix. And overall, I have to say I'm not upset because Creative's Pip, frankly, has impressed me more than any other champion he's played so far in Season 2. He has looked so good across the board, hitting these wild in-hands across the map, filling the shoes. And it's funny to note, almost that same relationship for Shaolin. You can almost say that same thing for Unbelievable and Pip from Season 1. Not as sincere, a lot of shifting, but still just looking so strong no matter who they put where.
I've loved seeing Pip in the hands of these DPS players because it's a whole different style than when you approach him as this is a support champion or something, right? You get to see these big plays and all of these show out moments, but we're going to Frog Isle next.
Yeah, and that clip kind of puts it on display, right? Normally, Pip players, Willow players, you want to get above, you want to shoot down, blaster, yada, yada. But no, he's below people. He's shooting up at them and still having that impact and still being so impressive with it. And that's what has just caught my eye. And I'm just saying, Creative's Pip has looked absolutely phenomenal this season. Not as sincere. A lot of great comfort picks for them in the previous game. And now we'll see what goes down in game number 3. Eevee banned right out of the gate for Virtus.Pro.
And taking Kinessa off the table as well, since she's been such a talking point on Frog Isle, despite the fact that I don't think we've seen a Kinessa all day so far.
No, not a lot of it. And maybe it's as a result of the fall off of reposition as the undisputed best talent for Kinessa. We didn't see her on Stone Keep. Neither of these teams, I will say, chomp at the bit to get the sniper. Fnatic loves their sniper. Bugsy loves Kinessa. Bonker loved it in the first week of Season 2. Played it great on Stone Keep, as well as Mousesports. Cybate seems to be definitely leaning towards picking Kinessa more often than not. When you've got teams going to it on like the Serpent Beach and stuff like that, that's when you know like that team just likes to run Kinessa.
And not only is Navi not scrambling to get themselves a sniper, they actually take both of their bans to take any sniper play off the table.
Interesting to note for sure. Why that comes about, maybe not to say it's not in the champion pool, because we commented last week Mutu looked just ruthless on Kinessa. To see him go away from that this time around. Granted, again, got to remember that reposition has seen a little bit of a nerf every single time.
Yep.
ICD on the heal, and then the reduction or the removal of the cooldown reduction. Little hits here and there, chip that, making it just maybe a little bit less popular.
Yeah, but the Xin does get locked in, and there's been kind of the debate of Xin has been more popular as of late, but on this map in particular with Frog Isle of whether he should actually be succeeding or not.
So Makoa makes it through, and talking about the success of Xin, it's always been accompanied by the name of another champion, Genos. Up on the board, available to be picked. VP go to Maldamba with that available, so they are saying confidently enough, we want the Xin. Genos, we could take him or leave him. In this case, with the option up, we're going to have Maldamba.
Which we haven't seen that yet. Usually everybody goes for the clear combination that's been the talk for a bit now. And on the opposite side, you have Cassie, you have Shaolin, and we saw that Phoenix now has Shaolin as a very strong option for himself. If you want to throw it back at creatives, he can do that too.
And you gotta say maybe they picked this Maldamba because Navi have shown they're going for a 2 frontline composition. They've gone for Anar Makoa already at this stage of the game. Genos does a little bit better healing the 3 DPS. I would say Maldamba does a little bit better healing these 2 frontliners up. VP, they go ahead, they take the Maldamba, they take the Fernando, and they take the Terminus. So they had in their mind what they wanted to do later on in their draft, and they got the picks for it. And that kind of goes to show why they wanted that Maldamba.
But they're putting a lot of pressure on Xin as well.
Yeah.
To hold
they
it
do
down
have
to that
Ruckus.
category. Yeah, this the next day I was thinking was Ruckus is there. So when you go for triple frontline, at least having him as one of them kind of switches things up a little bit.
And Genos unpicked, unbanned in this game. And I'm going to leave you with that.
All right, so it's a Genos-less game, everybody. Let's take a look.
Kind of interesting because these two teams seem to be really adapting to each other. This is very much a meta where you're seeing Virtus.Pro and Navi hyper-aware, hyper-self-aware, and hyper-aware of their opponents and their strategies and what they're going for. And I think it's throwing both of their drafts off a little bit.
Yeah, it was actually one of those moments where Sarah's, well, I kind of fully expected Genos. I'm like, well, you got Cassie, you got Shaolin, you got McCoy. Like, just let them all hit a little bit harder. It's going to be better. But I kind of like where Convergence fits in as well, and I think her splashing, because it's Frog Isle, Void Abides is going to be pretty decent here.
Yeah.
Being able to keep everyone topped off. Still an interesting step away from what we've been seeing successful in the last couple of weeks and being able to maybe take it in a new direction. The same thing goes for Virtus.Pro. I would be a little bit harsher on the whole triple front line if it weren't for the fact that one of the front lines is Ruckus, so I think it's a little bit more flexible overall, but still not something we've been seeing be quite as successful.
But again, like you mentioned, one of those front lines is Ruckus. And Mandara switching off of the Shaolin, then the Cassie, who had a really horrible game. Let's just call a spade. Now onto the Fernando. Hopefully he can make a big impact. He's going to have a little bit more health to work with. The Cauterize and the Brand in his loadout will start him off with pretty much a full amount of Cauterize. So no one's going to be getting any heals when he throws that fireball on them and adds a little bit of the Flame Lance. And so this should help to maybe shut something down. And knowing that, I think Navi said, man, we really need some healing to be able to stay alive and combat some of this.
Being able to look for a lot of this healing, keeping everyone alive. I think Mad Mac is kind of the key that brings it all together. He's the last puzzle piece to make sure VP work, but if they get rid of him, if they distract him, if they just kind of isolate some of these front lines, it might make the difference. But unbelievable, the first one to go down, and Virtus.Pro actually get control of the point.
And I mean, doesn't even have his Shadowfall use, so Elvin Pass somehow just, I mean, must have swung through unlimited power staying alive here. Phoenix finding that kill. Makoa, so rare to see him let go. But again, like I said, these guys are playing very differently than they normally would against each other now. 63% on the objective for Virtus.Pro. Shadowfall just to get a little closer. It's a big cooldown, though, to waste just to stand on the point. But he doesn't want to get susceptible to Creative's damage for longer than he had to.
And the shield being able to kind of keep him going, actually forcing Makoa out of the fight. And this is actually one of the rare instances. I think even though Makoa, Torvald, typically like the two top banned frontliners, we've seen one game where Torvald was not impactful, and now we're seeing Makoa almost fall into the same area. It just doesn't seem like he's hitting as hard. This is the not as Vincier that I've been expecting. Coming back at it with a different approach.
Elvin Path really holding that down. I'm so surprised he stayed alive. I mean, incredible stuff from him, but really precise play from Mutu. Had a little window before Elvin started getting healed back up again, and he found the kill, and those are the little moments that matter. Again, Mutu now free firing. No one's able to pay attention to him. The point fight's gotten too expensive, and they cannot take their eyes away. And now Cassie just absolutely snowballing here with that impulse build that we saw and we expected. Should have been getting kills for Madara last game, but it didn't. And now Navi capitalized off of it in round one.
Being able to kind of get aggressive now, goes forward, going to be able to dismount shots, keep them locked away. Virtus.Pro, they can't really do much from back here. This is really just a, you know your front lines, you know you have to kind of be more grouped together to make your fight work out the way you want it to. We're just going to make sure our payload gets pretty far before you have any chance of actually combating us.
2 minutes and 2 seconds left now. Good hook there from Phoenix. Elvin Pass going to go down, and man, Mutu, he has really been the silent assassin, hasn't he? He's just been making everybody pay. And Cassie, very silent in her stuff in terms of fighting. Not very easy to hear when those bow and arrows fly across the map. Well, I guess just the arrows are flying, not the bows. That would be a little clunky.
Be pretty brave, too. Hey, I'm throwing my weapon.
Hey, it'd be a good forearm workout, I'll tell you that.
Be able to show you exactly what's going.
Ooh.
Might still hurt just as much. You never know. Either way, the arrows are going to be flying from both of them. Shaolin going to be finding a good planted there. But right now you're seeing in Virtus.Pro, I feel like what we've seen the reason for triple frontline fade away. Cool, I mean, you want to fight, you get aggressive, then you get pushed back almost immediately.
Well, you know what? There's a lot of truth to that, and I think a lot of it is that, you know, triple front line is something that you go to give you a little bit more wiggle room. And when you talk about just Natus Vincier and their lineup versus Virtus.Pro's lineup of people, with a minute left, Navi almost at the precipice of pushing. They just need to find one more big kill. Phoenix does find that one on MTZ. It's just very hard for Virtus.Pro and just getting into the PPL with 4 new members to compete for 5 games on without a little bit of help.
And with the way they're playing this, I mean, even right there, Reanimate's available. Elven Path goes down, they don't even care. They still group up around it, or at least get close. They're still fighting as though he's not there, and just shrugging off what Virtus.Pro have to offer. A lot of the assets they have just kind of getting rolled over. Even now, 29 seconds left. Payload's almost all the way in.
And they don't want to go 2-0. This is not something you would expect. Elven Path probably not going to use his, although somehow the call was, Mad Mac, you use yours. Madara, you use yours. MTZ, you use yours. But I'm still not going to use mine. Elvin, very, I don't know. Nobody touches my toys with that reanimate usage. Everyone else on the team does, and I just don't understand the conversation they're having when they don't all fully commit.
I feel like the rest of them shouldn't have committed.
I think they shouldn't have either.
You should have just let it roll in. Have all your ults. I mean, now you have a reanimate. That's great for the point fight, but you have no Hexafire. You have no Dread Serpent. You don't have any ult to either lock them down or get rid of something like Phoenix, like Unbelievable. Everything Virtus.Pro just did, in an ideal situation, you're down. They're going to win the game. I agree with that. Dump your ults. You're going to go down 2-0. You get the comeback mechanic. Just let it roll through.
I don't know. I understand why you keep the reanimate, and I think if you're going to keep the reanimate, if you're going to, Immortal, very hard charging, take a while to get going, ultimates, and especially in a game like this, not a lot of wiggle room. Oh boy, I feel like this may just have been a oversight, hopefully not overplayed strategy for them. Unbelievable finding MTZ there. And here's a seismic crash. He's going to stun 2. A hook from Phoenix just to displace Elvin a little bit more. And even if he does have the reanimate, I mean, Unbelievable's waiting for the wall.
That was like the perfect. Go ahead, do it. Like, let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens
ahead and ult. You can fight. We'll probably kill you immediately afterward. You don't have a team here. And I have a wall, so your damage isn't going to do anything anyway. It's just the perfect positioning, the perfect call, not as sincere. Being able to essentially read what Virtus.Pro are doing before they're doing it and stop it.
Wow, no disengage. Doesn't even care if he's touching the point. So they accept it. More concerned about the zone. And, of course, the power siphon as well. Elven Path, he may just do it here. And there's the Ceres Convergence. He's going to reanimate here. Doesn't get anything, Phoenix, just with the Shell Shield blocks it. Good stun, though, and that is going to help slay Mutu. Madara finds that, but not as Vincier. Wait while he's off the objective and just stand on it and say, I'll take that, sir.
And just being able to play that perfectly. One of the things that normally you're a Terminus, you're up against Inara, you wait for the wall to go down, and you're like, all right, I can ult here. This is going to be perfect. Shields block it too, and that's exactly where Makoa comes into the equation. You do get a really good fight afterward. You're being able to push back a little bit, take down a couple of members here and there of Navi, but unfortunately, you took your foot off the point. That's all they needed. They took that space back.
And they don't get fully pushed back, so what sucks about this, if you're Virtus.Pro, is you now are under pressure. You didn't get a chance to fully regroup as 5. You're taking damage, and the Queen song starts to play in the background. Ding, 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 ding. And you could hear the kind of tenor, soprano vocals start to wail, because it doesn't feel like there's a lot of happiness going on with VP.
Not able to find a lot right there. That's going to be a big one for Unlimited Power. At least gets rid of Phoenix, but every single time that's happened, I mean, I've seen that play a few times that not as Vincier haven't cared.
Oh, yeah.
They just, okay, we'll move back a little bit. You get a little bit of ground here, and then we're just going to come back in full force. Elven Path gets a little too aggressive for me, and I think they're just fighting too much. I think Virtus.Pro need to fall back a little bit and try to encompass Not as Vincier. Try to take them down one by one, not take the fight to them.
Interesting, too, because you try to point out what would work, what would be better. It's hard to say, and that Somersault coming into play right there. Oh, man, Cassie's going to stay alive. And just by doing that, forces Madara into a really precarious spot. He chases the kill, maybe showing a little bit of inexperience there. He staggers himself. They really, really wanted Mutu, and Mutu's doing so well on the Cassie, too. Talk about a difference in changing when, Madara, he just was the talk of the town game 1, and then Creatives was not looking good, and now that has totally shifted.
Just flip it on its head, Not as Sincere, a lot more comfortable with where they've been going, where they've been taking things. And again, you kind of have to wonder, looking back on it, was it just the draft? I mean, was it that
the Eevee,
Torvald?
right?
They were focused so heavily on that, and they're just able to pull it all together. Convergence, so much damage, and that's going to be 2 more kills.
Oh, man, and now they're starting to flow. Now they're starting to roll through this game as we expected. Not as Vincier grabbed game 3 on Frog Isle with ease. And they take this one right home to the bank. It is not easy to do that against the PPO quality team. And Virtus.Pro, the way they were playing earlier, I'm still just trying to figure out, my own opinion as to what's going on. It feels like just identity crisis.
Yeah.
Maybe for both teams, and I'm still trying to get to the bottom of it.
And it just feels like this weird area. I'm like, okay, let's break sweeps week. Like, let's just make sure that it's not 3-0s all around.
Seriously, maybe that was it.
It came down to the fact
that
there was nothing that really big changed. I mean, draft-wise, the only difference was a Torvald. It just seems like different players.
Well, let's send it back to the desk, see what they have to say about that one.
I mean, Navi was looking pretty good, and the triple front line. I feel like one of the things, too, is triple front line you're supposed to be able to capture, and the second that they lost that first one, that's always kind of a telling moment of the match.
Yeah, for sure. And not a sincere with the Cassie, with the Shaw, their backline was just properly equipped to deal with it. I think Makoa, of course, having that hook going through the power siphon constantly, putting Elvin Path in weird spots as well. There was a lot of things going well for Not a Sincere. They got their guys back on champions they were comfortable with. Sort of the same theme I think I saw in game number 2 on Stone Keep, and back to his home base. Talked about Phoenix's Shaolin, but Creatives, of course, the OG Shaolin for this roster, and the playmaking potential between he and Mutu is just basically limitless with Cassie and Shaw.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we were going through the highlights of players and everything for those videos that we show, and looking at Creatives and just how much Shaolin play there was throughout the PWC and beyond, and just proving that he's very comfortable on the champion. And
looking at Virtus.Pro's composition, the character that you would think would be putting pressure on is Zin, right? But it wasn't run with the Genocide. It wasn't run with Yomi, right? It's Guillotine Zin, built to deal with some of these front lines, and it just wasn't really having that effect. You didn't see a lot of pressure being put on Mutu. Look where Mutu's standing right now. Yeah. This is an aggressive spot.
Open.
That's the Zin. That's the guy that's supposed to be putting the pressure on that back line there, but he was more focused on the front line that time around, and things just weren't adding up. And the casters mentioned in round 1, and I was kind of along with them, as what is this ult management from Virtus.Pro? Very disciplined in the way they use their ultimates in Season 1. Nobody uses for defense. You can go down 0-2. You can go down. It doesn't matter if you're down by 2 points. You focus on winning the point fight the next round with all of your ultimates and with the comeback mechanic enabled. And being that Elvin Path is still kind of what we assume to be the leader of this team, that sort of principle has fallen to the wayside. Granted, compositions are a little bit less point-centric than they were in Season 1, but that mantra of the ult management for Virtus.Pro, not as disciplined as it was in Season 1.
Yeah, and I remember specifically at the LAN when that was a huge talking point, not just region to region, but for this team specifically with the organization Virtus.Pro. But on the defense, at one point, they used all except for Reanimate, and then still got team wiped immediately after.
It was almost like their mantra, but opposite at that point. And they came through kind of staggered as well. And the second the Dread Serpent came off, you heard Evan say, "That's weird," because it's just not what you're used to seeing from those guys. And with the disciplined way that they once upon a time did use their ults. Zin's going to be gone from this one straight off the gate, but what a weird role. He's already starting to maybe not fill the same shoes that he did in earlier weeks in the PPL, but that's the evolution of the meta, and that's what's cool about balance. Has stayed relatively consistent from 68 on. We're only on 69 here now, but stayed pretty consistent here. And watching these teams evolve and play around new things and play from game to game and set to set is always an interesting thing. And how many characters and how many different things were run at PWC is sort of a testament to that. When you don't really fine-tune everything that's working, right? You don't see the Yomi nerf and the Luminary nerf come through the next day after it does well. It's almost like, let the players play. Let them figure it out. Let's see where this goes.
I mean, this is one of my favorite times within kind of there's this wave, and I feel like if you look at with the meta, and there's a moment where things are a little settled on that front, which allow players to explore on their own ends and go on these trajectories instead of just having to respond to those overall changes. And that's what's opened up for these new styles of play. For some teams, it's reverting back to old styles of play, but kind of forcing these changes amongst their style. And Nara, Genos, Cassie, Bomb King, all locked in first.
And BK, definitely a big pick between these two teams, though it hasn't seen a lot of play. Unpicked, unbanned in game number 3. Banned out in games 1 and 2. So for the first time, the King will get to unfurl his cloak and come into the realm. It's been a big pick. Both of these squads definitely really want that, and that's why you're going to see it banned out in games 1 and 2. But the fact that it goes completely overlooked. It's a bit of an interesting talking point when you look at how many front lines were picked up in game number 3. The fact that neither team went to it is very interesting.
I wonder if his coat's all wrinkled since it had to be
asking the tough
dished
questions
away
here.
for so long. But on the opposite end, Nando being locked in, that's actually the first frontliner on that side. So still only one on both sides to this point. And you can kind of wait and see what VP brings to the table to decide how full force you want to go.
They've got their Dampa and Nara. Maeve here is something that I wouldn't be super surprised if VP went for. They've got the only Fernando to deal with on Nada Sincere, as well as the burst damage to try and deal with this Cassie in the buck. But they're going to go back to double frontline here as they pick up Toy Menace.
I want to see, I feel like Mad Mech, we've seen on a lot of Maldamba throughout the PPL so far.
Well, I think it has to do with Virtus.Pro running. They seem like they're settling back towards double frontline. Elvin Plath experimented with Leons and Cassies and DPS picks in the first couple of weeks. Obviously not finding their wins there. Maybe he's just more comfortable playing that frontline role. And it is a very nuanced thing. I don't think frontliners are the most mechanically difficult characters to play. However, there's a game sense element that asks more of those players, and I think experience is something that really helps you fill into that role and sort of command the battlefield for your team. So maybe Elvin Path just a more natural fit for him.
Well, this could potentially be the last game of the set if Navi managed to close it, but let's see if VP has what it takes to push this to a game 5.
I don't know. I'd be surprised. I personally would.
I feel like their formula from game 1, where they found their success is back. They have the Inara, they have the Terminus, they have Maldamba. Then Bomb King Shaolin's nothing to scoff at. These two players are actually very adept at those champions as well.
True.
So they've got what they need.
Yeah.
The question is whether or not Nada Sincere are actually going to let them.
I mean, I think it's just still on the process of finding your identity as an individual. That's one thing these players are all going through, teenagers, mid-20s, trying to figure out who they are. And in the game, I think their team trying to figure out who they are as well. You know, this is a different meta, and you have two choices when things change around you. You can be the guy who accepts the change, says, yeah, this is great, this is a great game, or this is the way to play it. Or you can be the guy who says, I'm going to go against the grain. And, progress is based on the unreasonable man, they say. So maybe Elvin Path being unreasonable here, committing to this double front line, whereas clearly the single front line is shown to be the best for Fnatic and for Navi at times, saying, no, we're going to do our thing. We're going to make it work.
And I feel like a lot of it is when it comes down to, Elvin Path, a very phenomenal frontline player. He does well on the carries, but he feels at home when he's playing the frontline. The same thing goes for MTZ. He really feels more at home when he's playing these frontlines. So I think the double frontline fits their players better, but it kind of puts them at this deficit where their damage just isn't matching what's coming out of Nada Sincere in this case.
I also have to say, I would love to see them incorporate the Pip. I just don't know if they can play it. But Terminus and Pip is a great combo there. And, if Elvin Path can get back to full health, he's such a different threat in the fight. And Navi now having him get so low and then to time it took for him to retreat, get back up, to me it just seems like, that could be accomplished so much better if Mad Mac was a comfortable Pip, even as a solo heal, or if they had someone who could flex on it instead of that Bomb King role. But you got to say, Elvin Path gained the first blood. That's a good way to start, and maybe finding a double here on the Terminus with the Massacre Axe.
And we're actually seeing something that's kind of loose. Last week he was playing Leon on Serpent Beach, and he just came to the point, didn't seem like he wanted to leave it.
Yeah.
Feels a lot more frontline play than anything else. Being able to switch now to the Terminus.
Feels
come
frontline,
fight me.
man.
You have to come fight me right here in my home, where I want you to fight me. And that's exactly the control they've been missing. Unbelievable going to jump in, but he's surrounded by 4.
And luckily, Unbelievable doesn't have the shield up when he dashes in. In fact, that would have been very bad. Still gets slayed by Madara, who on the Cassie didn't find a lot of success. But man, oh man, is he finding success on the Shaolin every single time he's played it today. 2 out of the 4 games. Hopefully this one can continue to be good for him. Needs Phoenix there, misses the bonus shot. Phoenix actually claims the life of Elvin Path with the help of an Enlightenment and gets a double kill. Madara looking to change it around, but Unbelievable is already on his tail, despite them actually finding the Scion of House Ico.
Luckily, they do have a little bit of time. 51% overall, and Madara actually played that really well. There was a couple of combinations that came through, but right now it's all Nada Sincere. Everything back in their side of the court, making sure they're holding on to it. Mutu, very good dismounting shots. Warning shots, I would even say, to be like, come fight.
Come here.
I'll show you exactly what is waiting for you. It's a buck, it's a shotgun, and it can be deadly.
Good through time and space. Elvin Path slays Unbelievable. Really amazing how he turns these duels around. His Terminus is maybe one of, if not the best in the world. You could say that pretty clearly. And now a King Bomb coming through as well. This is a good route. He knows he's going to find at least Mutu and Virtus.Pro. Capture objective number 1. They go up 300 credits. They are now in the driver's seat, able to push 2. MTZ already summoning himself up there with some speed and them jumps. You can tell these guys are feeling good about it.
Definitely being able to get back to, I want to say, their roots. I mean, now going and grabbing that point early on gives them a little bit of flexibility. They can kind of shrug it off. They know, game 1, we didn't get the push immediately. We don't need a 2-0 here. We don't really need to give Nadas Vincere a comeback mechanic.
Look at
but
that.
we do want to show them what we can do. And right now, I feel like that's kind of where Nadas Vincere are. They've had 2 games where they said, this is what we can do.
Yeah.
And now it's almost devoid.
Always funny to see a Nara flying. It's just not what you would associate with a very immobile rock lady. But hey, I guess, you know, that's the beauty of it. The surprise factor. It's really up there.
You know,
Elven Path, he kind of wishes he could stay up and jump that high, I think.
I feel like it's very reminiscent. I mean, it kind of took, I think I've heard it called Pop-Tart, Toaster Strudel. Either way,
Toaster Strudel.
You have 2 things that
Pop-Tarts for sure.
don't necessarily jump, right?
Right.
Until you put them in the toaster. You give a Nara a toaster, she can fly.
It's amazing what superhuman people can do with toasters. And we're going to leave that conversation at that.
I think that's a good place to leave it. In the past.
In the past.
Maybe buried a little bit.
And we're going to talk about the fact that there's 1 minute and 5 seconds left. The payload's basically moved about 80% of the way. And, you know, Virtus.Pro, I just keep going back and forth in this, hey, we're actually, you know, better than the world champions. Hey, actually, we can't compete here. Hey, actually, we're better than you guys by far. Like, so hard to read. But a very exciting match.
And I will say, I think I like the way Nadas Vincere is kind of approaching this. You see where Unbelievable is, but mainly Phoenix. This is like my favorite Leon corner. You just sit back there, and it kind of forces the focus division. Do you want to go for the payload? Do you want to try and get rid of me? Either way, I'm free-firing onto you the entire time. If you can fight me back,
she's got
great,
the corner office.
but that payload's not going anywhere.
Yeah, she's got that corner office over there. Definitely in charge. Got the best view of Serpent Beach as well. The ocean side. High rent. Trust me, you do not want to be paying for that unless you're making buku bucks. But the Scion, Town Psycho,
Poor MTZ.
she's taken care of. She got a nice inheritance coming through.
And if you happen to say anything rude to her, I'm sure Khan
Oh,
pretty
boy.
soon is going to have some words for you.
Khan, yeah, he's
If
gonna
she
be,
doesn't already herself, because she is armed.
she'll have the words. He'll have the fists, basically. And we all know he has a pretty good shot put, pretty good discus throw. Definitely one of the Realm Olympics if he signs up. Spunky here holding with a nice void grip. MTZ still pushing through, but Phoenix finds Elven Path there. Spunky finding that last one onto the secondary front line means this should probably be and will be a defense for Nadas Vincere.
I really like the way they approached it. It was just small picks all around, small little things that made that work out, but they got rid of the 2 frontliners, which all in all are the biggest threat right now. Once they're gone, Mad Mac, even if he heals up Madara and unlimited power, it's not going to be that same impact. But then you have to look forward. We got the defense. Cool. We did that first game. Why didn't we get the point? What is it that they have changed? And honestly, I think it's just the way Elven Path plays this tournament. It's the way they keep him healed up. And of course, being able to distract. You're so focused on him, you don't notice unlimited power or Madara on the side doing most of the damage.
It's really a really nice kind of fit when everything is going well. And I think Virtus.Pro are really 1 player away. To me, this is like, you know, Madara keeps showing up, they're going to be fine. If Madara has these games where he's a player and then he's not a player, they're going to struggle, as you can see that. But, you know, everybody has their off days. Creatives has his. And boy, oh boy, look at that combo. Seismic Crash through time and space. King Bomb. It all goes to trade out 1 for 1. Madara finding the Fernando and Phoenix finding unlimited power before he pops out of that ultimate.
Phoenix being able to get rid of unlimited power there is really big. Even if he had just wasted the King Bomb, he's still alive. Getting rid of that damage kind of separates it up. But Virtus.Pro, again, doing the right thing with their composition. They got 48% on the point before finally relinquishing it. And ultimately, Elven Path actually going to go for it.
Yeah, he's just going to stay on the objective, trying to contest, trying to hang. And it's lovely because they're all waiting. They don't know. And I mean, one of the things you could say Elven Path really has ingrained in the people he plays against is that you do not know when he is going to use that reanimate, and you have to be ready for it. Luckily, Nadas Vincere were, but still, Virtus.Pro have the advantage on the point.
And ultimately, like, it's the zoning that they really needed, but a nice shot coming down. Unbelievable, gets unlimited power. MTZ goes down. Mad Mac is gone, so Elven Path, that life, it's not coming back.
I mean, he's just committed so much to Terminus.
Yeah.
And it really has been a valuable pick for Virtus.Pro. It's been something they've gone to every single game in this set. He's played it every single game.
Stop the payload.
And it's, you know, even since his inception into the realm, he's played it quite often when available. He's a very good champion, winning and statistically. And also, I think in terms of practice, there's a lot of great strategies that benefit him, especially when you get that burst healing. That's what they're lacking a little bit with only the Maldama and no Pip, no secondary healer as well to augment that.
Yeah.
But I still feel that, you know, this is working decently enough.
It's one of those things that what you're seeing is Virtus.Pro, they are a math problem on your homework. Not as Vincier have had a little bit of time to study it. The first time, had no idea how to deal with it. The second time, it wasn't the same problem.
That's
Third
right.
time, it was a different problem. Now the problem's back, and they said, look, done a little bit of homework since you were here, and we know how to deal with this now.
I wish I could do 4 homework problems and know exactly what to do for math. That would have been really easy for me
Would
in
have
my
been
life.
nice.
1 problem. What? I have no idea how this works. Second problem. Oh, that's a different problem. Third problem. That's a different problem. Fourth problem. Oh, now I know exactly how this works. It's like, wait, the only other problem that was like this was the one you had no idea how it worked. Very, very adaptable, and that just goes to show that maybe I'm not the same level, if not as Vincier, type brain that you know, these lovely young men have. And
Also, I think highlights that we're lucky. Paladins isn't quite math. There's some math in here.
There is some
There's
math in
numbers. If you're a coach, I recommend looking at them. But
This
other
was
than that,
zeros. Yeah.
A lot of it is aim.
If I was casting 0s and 1s, I think I would. I don't know if I'd make it.
That'd be complicated. That'd be hard to. I mean, I don't even know what a Nara would look like that.
Oh man,
Definitely harder to envision. We're not Neo. We can't see it like that.
be hard to talk about loadouts. I tell you that. Well, here's loadout.
Well, it seems like he has a bunch of 1s in a row, then a couple of
0,
zeros.
0, 1, 0. Is that a Swift Jade? God, I don't know. I don't know. 30 seconds left here.
30 seconds
Virtus.Pro
remaining.
not quite able to push. Of course, last round, not as Vincier, not quite able to push this round, but they still have a little bit of time to do so. 20 seconds now, things getting a little tighter. Madar's been holding that upper side well. Phoenix on a 13 streak. They've got to find an answer. Uses the Enlightenment and then goes down right after, so he doesn't keep the 50% cooldown and still goes down.
Now the shot's really going to be on. Where does Creatives put this damage? It's right on to Mad Matt. Get rid of the healer. Empty Z, Elven Path don't have as much to stand on because of it. Reanimate, I don't expect to see it come through.
I love how they stare at them.
Not as Vincier going to be holding on to this. The respawn timers really have to come in.
Overtime still, and not as Vincier. They're just going to let it through. I think the second you saw Elven Path not use his, they realized, let's not do that. And it goes back to that Frog Isle game, which felt like such a wipe. When 4 people used theirs, and Elven Path just didn't. And then you just said, they all use them at different times. It's like, what was the call there? It seems like they were a lot more coordinated and save, save, save. Do not try to extend this. Just fight with combat mechanic.
So Creatives has gone into Nimble 2, and he just bought Deft Hands, which is something that we are not, I want to say, used to seeing some of these players go for. So if we get the chance actually before the round starts, I'd love to see what he's running, because one of the things about Nimble is a lot of Cassies actually do invest movement speed in their loadout, so he's kind of taking that away, going to be able to replace it. I think Quiver is actually the one that's really coming in there. Just 2 extra shots.
Yeah.
An interesting pickup for him. And with Deft Hands, he doesn't need to reload as often, but it's still an interesting loadout for him to go for it with it.
You know, I mean, he's being, look at the way he plays, right? Very just frag, shoot, shoot, shoot. What it does, and you know, people laugh at Deft Hands, but it is a DPS increase. It just increases your reload, increases the, say, over 10 seconds, how many shots can you get off? There's quite a bit. Spunky fighting MTZ there, so who cares about getting shots off when your support's getting the big shots off and getting kills for you? Double kill for Spunky, who finds Elven Path. Will he reanimate? Will he go back to base? 46% on Virtus.Pro. I think they're going to back it off and try to get there without being completely zoned.
And I love that hold from them, just being able to recognize, look, we have the comeback mechanic. If we can play this game the way we have the last couple of points, even though we lost the last one, we have the advantage here. Navi have to sit there a little bit longer. We get a couple fights at this. Let's not use everything at the beginning. Let's use a little bit, see what we can get. 46%, pretty decent. Come back in with a King Bomb and a reanimate. You can re-grab it. You can see Elven Path on the side. I'm waiting to see where unlimited power
they don't know where
comes into
anyone
this.
is. That's crazy. They don't know where anyone is. They finally spot out Elven Path. Makes his way all the way around. He's got to get to the point for the reanimate, but you don't want to die here. Standing on the gourd, this is good. A little bit of pressure. They did finally burn it. He does have to go into the reanimate, but the shield pops up. That was such a good job from Navi to say, guys, we got to make him use it early. They do. Now Madara in unlimited power finding a couple kills, but Creatives is back again with his deft hands. Cassie, brand new OP build? Maybe.
Spunky going to be able to get one. Empty Z finds Phoenix, though. 97 to 99, 99 to 99. Overtime going to be ticking through, but Elven Path, I think, is the only one still really standing in their way. If they can get rid of him, Mad Mac having to fall back a little bit, and Elven Path's going too low.
And if you cut off, the leader right there, you might just cut off the entire opportunity for them to come back. It's not as sincere cleaning up this set today, although they do lose a game to Virtus.Pro, which if you got to say, if you're going back trying to win against Fnatic next week, you now have lost and dropped a game that Fnatic have not dropped against a team that Fnatic have beaten 3-0. So this is a maybe coming back to haunt them type of strategy when it comes to first place, second place, if things go well their week next time.
And I want to say a really good sign for Virtus.Pro being able to come in and not only take a game, but even in the ones after that, save for Frog Isle, it felt like they were still there fighting. And it's just one of those moments where it's like, okay, focus on those, figure out why that worked, use that more.
Yeah, great stuff. I think Virtus.Pro are almost there, but let's see what the desk has to say about it with Not As Sincere taking this set over VP.
I mean, Virtus.Pro took us all for a loop with game number 1's victory, but Navi nonetheless all tried and true to their glory.
I mean, Creative's doing his best gold ranked player impression, picking up the deft hands in that game. Well, not exactly not warranted. I don't know that's credits best spent, and he's goofing off in the back line. Looking good, feeling good, having a lot of fun with it. Not As Sincere throughout the day have looked pretty solid, except for that game 1. That was like the one moment. But again, I want to stress that I think that was just VP playing extremely well. They were close to that here in this final game 4 as well. The Shaolin seems like it is going to be a very impactful pick. Madara's Shaolin has looked super good, but Not As Sincere's Shaolin players as well, whether it's Creatives, whether it's Phoenix. Phoenix looking good all day, playing both DPS and frontline today, and looking damn strong on both. Had an incredible performance here on Stone Keep with his Shaolin, and then goes on to have a great light show on a frontline. That mentality switch makes him just such a valuable threat for Not As Sincere.
Yeah, because of the way the meta's been shifting, I feel like a lot of teams have been prioritizing trying to diversify not just their overall champ pool, but the roles that they can play. And Phoenix has done that very strong, showing here today that he can definitely flex onto multiple things.
Playing a little bit of that Torvald as well in game number 1. That was the only time that it didn't necessarily work out for him, but all different types of role, right? You've got this Torvald, that's an enabler tank. You've got the Makoa, he's a real spearhead, frontline aggressive tank. Then he's got the Shaolin, which is pretty backline, can sometimes dive the way he was playing it, was pretty aggressive. I believe he was playing Desert Shadow that game, which tends to be, though that is a very defensive utility, almost legendary, it allows you to make plays, be invisible for longer. He was getting into the back line with his Shaolin more often than not. And then he plays a great Leon as well. He's been pretty hard on himself about this DPS performance. He's very kind of nose to the grindstone here and just wants to get better and continue to improve. But right out of the gate, we were all saying, man, you look pretty good to us.
Right? I mean, that's also one of the characteristics of a top-tier team is one that's willing to keep pushing themselves. And I remember seeing that where he was being critical of his own play and thinking, oh, we were just talking about how impressed we were on the cast from that play. So keeping that mentality going, I think, is what is also keeping them in the running the way they have been.
Foot on the gas. That's what Not As Sincere are all about. That's what I think put them at the top. That's what's going to keep them at the top, and they're going to have to fight hard because right now they're not at the top. Fnatic are. They're the team to beat in Europe.
And Fnatic, I mean, they haven't dropped a set so far, and Navi brought them really close to it. And Navi has another match to come as well. So if you take a look at what we have to come on the schedule today, we're halfway through. Navi face Mouse Sports next, and then Mouse Sports go for their doubleheader with NIP.
Got to run this one back here. And if you're looking at the way this set has gone, Virtus.Pro looking very good, taking a map off of Not As Sincere. Mouse Sports beating Virtus.Pro last week. We would assume going into these two matchups, these would be sweeps for the world champions, but I don't know. I don't know if anything is quite sure today.
And it's always nice seeing shakeups like this, too. We kind of go in with our expectations, and then everybody brings their own flavor to the table in the realm. But we're going to go ahead and kick it to a break, and when we return, it's time for Navi versus Mouse Sports.